Welcome back to my channel, US Rare Coins News, Top 1. Today we are looking at a giant $1 coin that most people think is common, but in the right condition, it can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This is the 1971 D Eisenhower $1. Big, heavy, bold. And it marked the return of the dollar coin to American pockets after a 5-year break. But here's what most people don't realize. Not all 1971 D Eisenhower dollars are created equal. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly what to look for on this coin, why the Denver version is so interesting, which rare varieties collectors chase, and how one small detail can turn an ordinary dollar into a serious payday. And at the end, I'll share real auction prices that might surprise you. Let's start with the basics. Hold the coin up close to the camera. This thing is massive compared to modern dollar coins. Over 38 millimeters wide. It feels more like a medal than pocket change. On the front, you see President Dwight D. Eisenhower facing left. Strong profile. Clean design. Above his head, the word Liberty. Below his chin, the date 1971. And just under the date, you'll see a tiny but important letter, D. That means this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Now flip it over. The reverse design is one of the coolest parts of this coin. You see an eagle landing on the moon, holding an olive branch. Earth rising in the background. It's dramatic. It's powerful. And it's directly inspired by the Apollo 11 mission patch. This coin doesn't just honor a president. It celebrates America's journey to the moon. That alone gives it serious historical weight. 1971 was the very first year the Eisenhower dollar was issued. After the death of President Eisenhower in 1969, there was strong public support for a coin honoring him. At the same time, the country wanted to celebrate the space program. So the mint combined both themes into one design. Now here's where things get interesting. The 1971 D Eisenhower dollar was struck in copper-nickel clad for circulation. It does not contain silver. That's important. Some collectors confuse it with the special 40% silver version struck in San Francisco, but those are different coins. The Denver Mint produced over 68 million of these in 1971. So at first glance, it seems common. And in circulated condition, it usually is. If you find one in pocket change or in an old coin jar, it's typically worth face value or just a small premium. But don't stop there, condition changes everything. These coins were large and heavy, and they banged into each other during transport. As a result, many 1971 D Eisenhower dollars have contact marks, dull luster, and weak strikes. Finding a sharply struck, high-grade example is much harder than people think. Now imagine a close-up shot under bright lighting. Look at Eisenhower's cheek. Check the jawline. Are there heavy marks? Look at the fields around his face. Smooth or covered in hits? Flip to the reverse and examine the eagle's breast feathers. On many 1971 D coins, those details are weak. Collectors pay serious attention to strike quality and surface preservation. Here's the cliffhanger most people miss. There is a variety known as the friendly eagle reverse, more commonly associated with the 1971 S proof. But understanding reverse details is critical across the series. Subtle design differences in dollars have created strong collector interest, and then there are high-grade registry coins. Most circulated 1971 D Eisenhower dollars are worth $1 to $5. Nice uncirculated examples might bring $10 to $20, but when you get into certified grades like MS65, MS66, and especially MS67, the price jumps dramatically. Because so many coins were poorly struck or heavily marked, true gem examples are scarce. Certified MS65 examples often sell in the tens of dollars. MS66 coins can reach into the low hundreds. And high-end MS67 examples have sold at auction for several $1,000s, depending on appeal and demand. That's a huge difference from $1, and that's what makes this coin exciting. It's not rare in general. It's rare in top condition. So the next time you see a big Eisenhower dollar, don't ignore it. Look closely. Check the mint mark. Study the strike. Examine the surfaces. Now I want to know, do you have any Eisenhower dollars at home? Have you ever checked them under magnification? And which do you prefer, the big, bold Ike dollar or the smaller modern dollar coins? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. The 1971 D. Eisenhower $1 represents a turning point in U.S. coinage. A tribute to a president. A celebration of the moon landing. And a reminder that even common coins can hide uncommon value. Top 2. Today we are looking at a big, heavy dollar coin from 1972 that most people toss into a drawer, without realizing that the right one can be worth far more than $1. This is the 1972 D. Eisenhower $1. At first glance, it looks just like the 1971. Same size. Same design. Same bold portrait. But there are a few details that make 1972 an interesting year for collectors. And if you know what to look for, you might see this coin very differently. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the design up close, explain why the Denver Mint version stands out, talk about strike quality and hidden value, and break down what real collectors are paying for high-grade examples. And near the end, I'll tell you why condition is everything with this coin. Let's start with the look. Hold the coin up close. The 1972 D. Eisenhower dollar is large and impressive, over 38 mm wide. It feels solid in your hand. On the front, you see President Dwight D. Eisenhower facing left. Above him, the word Liberty. Below his portrait, the date 1972. And just under the date, that small but important mint mark, D for Denver. Now flip it over. The reverse is one of the most iconic designs in modern U.S. coinage. An eagle descending onto the surface of the moon, clutching an olive branch. In the distance, the Earth rises. This design was inspired by the Apollo 11 mission insignia. So every time you look at this coin, you're seeing a tribute not just to a president, but to the American space program. That alone gives it a powerful story. Now here's where people get confused. In 1972, the Philadelphia Mint produced 3 different reverse varieties, known as Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. Those are highly collected and can carry strong premiums, especially the rare Type 2. But the 1972 D was struck only in one reverse style. So you don't have to hunt for different reverse types with the Denver version. Instead, the value story for the 1972 D is all about condition. The Denver Mint produced over 92 million of these coins. That sounds like a lot, and it is. In circulated grades, the 1972 D. Eisenhower dollar is very common. Most examples you find in change or old collections are worth face value or just a small premium, but here's the catch: these coins were big and heavy. They clanged together in mint bags. They picked up marks easily. And many were weakly struck, especially in the high points. Take a close-up look at Eisenhower's cheek and jawline. That area often shows heavy contact marks. Now flip to the reverse and zoom in on the eagle's breast feathers. On many 1972 D coins, those details are soft or flat. Finding one with strong luster, sharp strike, and minimal marks is not as easy as the mintage numbers suggest, and that's where collectors get serious. When you move into certified grades like MS65 and above, prices start to rise. Nice uncirculated raw examples might sell for $10 to $20 depending on eye appeal. Certified MS65 coins often bring modest premiums above that, but once you reach MS66, prices can climb into the low hundreds of dollars, especially for attractive examples. And here's the big jump. In top grades like MS67, the 1972 D becomes genuinely scarce. Auction records show high-end MS67 examples selling for several $1,000s, depending on demand and quality. That's a dramatic leap from a $1 face value. So the key lesson here is simple. It's not about rarity in general. It's about rarity in high grade. Now let's talk about errors for a moment. While the 1972 D isn't famous for major varieties like the Philadelphia Type 2 reverse, minor mint errors such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or double dies can exist. Any authenticated error in strong condition can carry a premium, especially within the popular Eisenhower Dollar series. Imagine finding a sharply struck 1972 D with blazing luster and almost no contact marks. That's the kind of coin registry collectors compete for. So here's my question for you. Do you have any Eisenhower dollars sitting at home? Have you ever checked the mint mark or looked closely at the condition? And if you had to choose, would you hunt for a rare variety like the 1972 Type 2 from Philadelphia, or chase a high-grade 1972 D? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know what you're collecting. The 1972 D Eisenhower $1 may seem common at first glance. Big, heavy, familiar. But when you understand strike quality, grading, and collector demand, you realize this coin has layers. That it represents a tribute to a president, a celebration of the moon landing, and a reminder that condition can turn an ordinary coin into something special. Top 3. Today we are looking at a massive $1 coin from 1974 that most people think is just spare change, but in the right condition, it has sold for thousands of dollars. This is the 1974 D Eisenhower $1. Big, bold, heavy in the hand, and often completely overlooked. But if you know what to look for, this coin can surprise you in a big way. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the design up close, explain why the Denver Mint version is trickier than it seems, reveal what collectors hunt for in high-grade examples, and break down real auction prices that might change how you see this coin forever. Let's start with the design. Hold it up to the camera. The 1974 D Eisenhower Dollar measures over 38 millimeters across. It's one of the largest coins the U.S. Mint ever made for circulation. On the front, you see President Dwight D. Eisenhower facing left. The word Liberty arches above his head. The date 1974 sits below. And just under the date, there's a small D. That tiny mint mark tells you this coin was struck in Denver. Flip it over, the reverse shows an eagle descending onto the surface of the moon, holding an olive branch. Earth floats in the background. It's dramatic. It's patriotic. And it honors both Eisenhower and America's space achievements. The design was inspired by the Apollo 11 mission insignia, connecting this coin to one of the most iconic moments in history. Now here's what makes 1974 interesting. By this time, the Eisenhower dollar had already been in circulation for a few years. But the public never fully embraced it for everyday use. It was simply too big and too heavy. Casinos loved it. Banks stocked it. But most people preferred paper dollars. Because of that, many 1974 D coins were stored in bags, moved around, and knocked against each other. That caused a problem. Contact marks. Take a close-up shot of Eisenhower's cheek. This area is almost always marked. Look at the jawline. Look at the open fields around his portrait. These large, flat surfaces show every tiny hit and scrape. Now flip to the reverse and zoom in on the eagle's breast feathers. On many 1974 D coins, the strike is not especially sharp. Some details look soft. So even though the Denver Mint struck over 45 million of these coins, finding one in truly pristine condition is much harder than the mintage suggests, and this is where the value story begins. In circulated condition, a 1974 D Eisenhower dollar is usually worth face value or just a small premium, maybe $1 to $3 depending on demand. Nice uncirculated examples might sell in the $10 to $20 range if they have good eye appeal, but when you step into certified high grades, everything changes. Coins graded MS-65 bring modest premiums. MS-66 examples can sell for significantly more, sometimes reaching into the low hundreds of dollars depending on quality and market demand. Now here's the big jump. In top-tier grades like MS-67, the 1974 D becomes genuinely scarce. Auction records show high-grade certified examples selling for several $1,000s. That's because very few coins survive with strong luster, sharp strike, and minimal contact marks. It's not about rarity in total numbers. It's about rarity in condition, and that's the lesson with many Eisenhower dollars. They were made in the millions, but most were not preserved carefully. There's also collector interest in mint errors. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and doubled dies are possible in this series. Any authenticated error in high grade can command a premium, especially among dedicated dollar collectors. Imagine pulling a 1974 D from an old bankroll, sending it for grading, and seeing it come back as a top population coin. That's the kind of discovery collectors dream about. now I want to ask you something. Do you have any Eisenhower dollars sitting in a drawer or coin jar? Have you ever checked the mint mark to see if you have a Denver issue? And would you rather collect the big Ike dollars or the smaller modern dollar coins like Sacagawea or presidential dollars? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you're collecting. The 1974 D Eisenhower $1 is more than just a big piece of clad metal. It represents a time when America tried to bring back the dollar coin. It honors a president and the space program. And it proves that even common coins can become valuable when preserved in exceptional condition. So here's the takeaway. Check the condition. Look at the strike. Study the surfaces. Because sometimes the difference between $1 and several $1,000s is just a few tiny marks. Top 4. Today we are looking at a $1 coin from 1977 that most people ignore, but in top condition, it has sold for thousands of dollars. This is the 1977 D Eisenhower $1. It's big. It's heavy. And by the late 1970s, most Americans didn't even want to carry it. But that lack of popularity is exactly what makes high-quality examples so interesting today. In the next few minutes, I'll show you what this coin looks like up close, explain why the Denver Mint version deserves attention, reveal what collectors search for, and break down real auction prices that might completely change how you see this oversized dollar. Let's take a close look. Hold the coin under good lighting. The 1977 D Eisenhower dollar measures over 38 millimeters across. It's one of the largest coins ever made for circulation in the United States. On the front, you see President Dwight D. Eisenhower facing left. The word Liberty stretches across the top. The date 1977 sits below his portrait. And just under the date, you'll find the small but important D mint mark for Denver. Now flip it over slowly. The reverse shows an eagle descending toward the moon, holding an olive branch. The earth appears in the background. It's bold. It's dramatic. And it connects this coin to the Apollo 11 mission, one of the proudest moments in American history. This design wasn't random. It symbolized strength, peace, and technological achievement. By 1977, the Eisenhower dollar had already been in production for several years. But here's the truth, it never became popular in everyday commerce. It was too large for pockets. Too heavy for cash registers. Paper dollars were simply easier. Because of that, many 1977 D coins were stored in mint bags or bank vaults rather than circulated heavily. But that doesn't mean they survived in perfect shape. Here's the twist, these coins were massive, and when stored in bulk, they slammed into each other. That caused contact marks, especially on the high points. Zoom in on Eisenhower's cheek and jaw. You'll almost always see marks there. Now look at the open fields around his portrait. Every small hit stands out. Flip to the reverse and check the eagle's breast feathers. Many 1977 D coins show weak strike details in that area. So while the Denver Mint produced over 32 million of these coins, truly clean, sharply struck examples are much harder to find than you might think. In circulated condition, the 1977 D Eisenhower dollar is usually worth face value or just slightly above it. Maybe $1 to $3 depending on demand. Nice uncirculated examples with decent eye appeal often sell in the $10 to $20 range, but now we move into serious collector territory. Certified coins graded MS65 bring modest premiums. MS66 examples can reach into the low hundreds of dollars depending on luster and strike, and then there's the jump that surprises people. In top grades like MS67, the 1977 D becomes genuinely scarce. Auction records show high-grade certified examples selling for several $1,000s. That's because very few coins survived with minimal marks, strong luster, and a sharp strike. It's not rare overall. It's rare in exceptional condition. There are also occasional mint errors to watch for. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and doubled dies can exist in the Eisenhower series. Any authenticated error, especially in high grade, can command a premium among collectors who specialize in Ike dollars. Imagine pulling a bright 1977 D from an old collection, examining it carefully, and realizing it has nearly flawless surfaces. That's the kind of discovery that turns a simple coin hunt into something exciting. Now let me ask you. Do you have any Eisenhower dollars sitting at home? Have you ever checked the condition closely under magnification? And which do you prefer, the bold, oversized Ike dollar or the smaller modern dollar coins like the Susan B. Anthony or Sacagawea? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear what you collect. The 1977 D. Eisenhower $1 represents the final years of the big dollar coin era before the US switched to smaller designs. It honors a president. It celebrates space exploration. And it reminds us that sometimes the most overlooked coins can hold surprising value. Here's the takeaway. Don't judge a coin by how common it seems. Check the mint mark. Study the surfaces. Look at the strike. Because the difference between $1 and several $1,000s might come down to condition alone. Top 5. Today we are looking at the last giant dollar coin America ever made for circulation, and in top condition. This 1978 D. Eisenhower $1 has sold for thousands. Most people see it and think it's just a big, heavy old coin worth $1. But here's the truth. The 1978 D is the final year of the Eisenhower series. The end of an era. And some examples are far more valuable than anyone expects. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for on this coin, why condition makes such a dramatic difference, which rare errors collectors hunt for, and at the end I'll share real market prices that might completely change how you see this oversized dollar. First, take a close look at it, hold it in your hand or imagine the weight. Over 38 millimeters wide. Thick. Solid. It feels more like a metal than pocket change. Now zoom in on the front. President Dwight D. Eisenhower faces left. The word Liberty curves across the top. The date 1978 sits clearly at the bottom. And just under the date, you'll see a small D mint mark. That tiny letter means it was struck at the Denver Mint. Flip it over slowly. An eagle is descending toward the surface of the moon, wings spread wide, holding an olive branch. The Earth floats in the distance. This design was inspired by the Apollo 11 mission patch. It's bold. It's patriotic. It connects the coin to one of humanity's greatest achievements. Now here's what makes 1978 special. It was the final year the US Mint produced these large Eisenhower dollars for everyday use. After this, the Mint switched to the smaller Susan B. Anthony dollar in 1979. So the 1978 D represents the closing chapter of the big dollar era, and that matters to collectors. The Denver Mint produced over 33 million of these coins. That sounds like a lot. And it is. But numbers can be misleading. Because of their size and weight, these coins were stored in large mint bags. Hundreds stacked together. And when heavy coins slam into each other, they leave marks. Deep contact marks. Especially on Eisenhower's cheek and jaw. Take a close-up shot of the cheek area. You'll see what I mean. Even uncirculated coins often have noticeable nicks. Now tilt the coin under bright light and watch the luster roll across the surface. That shine is what collectors love. But it's easily broken by scratches and bag marks. So while millions were made, finding one that is truly clean, sharply struck, and nearly flawless is much harder than it sounds. Look at the reverse. Focus on the eagle's breast feathers. Many 1978 D coins show weak strikes in that area. If you find one with crisp feather detail and strong luster, that's a good sign. Now let's talk about errors. There are reported double die varieties in the Eisenhower series, including minor doubling on lettering. Some off-center strikes and clipped planchets also exist. They aren't common, but when authenticated, they can bring strong premiums. Imagine finding a 1978 D with noticeable doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust. That would definitely get a collector's attention, but even without errors, grade is everything. In circulated condition, the 1978 D Eisenhower dollar is usually worth face value to maybe $2 or $3. It's still affordable for new collectors. Nice uncirculated examples often sell in the $10 to $20 range, depending on eye appeal. Certified coins graded MS65 can sell for around $30 to $50. MS66 examples can reach into the low hundreds, but here's where it gets serious. In very high grades like MS67, which are extremely hard to find because of those heavy bag marks. Auction prices have reached several $1,000s. That huge jump is all about condition rarity. Not overall rarity. Condition rarity, and that's what makes this coin exciting. The difference between $1 and several $1,000s can come down to tiny details you can only see under magnification. Think about that the next time you see one in a coin shop or tucked away in an old collection. Do you own a 1978 D Eisenhower dollar? Have you ever checked it closely under a bright light? And be honest, do you prefer these big, bold dollars, or the smaller modern ones that came after? Let me know in the comments. I read them all, and I love hearing what you collect. The 1978 D Eisenhower $1 isn't just a coin. It's the final chapter of a short-lived experiment with large dollar coins. It honors a president. It celebrates the space age. And it reminds us that sometimes the most overlooked coins carry the most surprising stories. So here's the takeaway. Don't dismiss it because it looks common. Check the mint mark. Study the surfaces. Look for strong strike and clean fields. Because that heavy piece of metal in your hand could be worth far more than you think. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1978 D Eisenhower dollar, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next coin story right here. There's always another hidden gem waiting to be discovered.